Welcome to Association Transformation. Andrew, I don't know about you, but I feel like we haven't podcasted in forever, so I missed you.
Yeah, I missed you too. I don't remember the last time we did this, actually. Did you? You did a couple without me, I think, didn't you?
I did. They were amazing.
I thought, yeah, I listened to them. They're probably the best we've ever done.
So Association Transformation back live and recorded for your listening pleasure. Thanks to the partnership of Consort Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions. So once again, we are diving into new and uncharted waters in the association world, looking for innovations and best practices and practical mistakes, things we can all learn from. And in this case, I'm excited to talk about, some pretty future-looking, socially responsible, save the world kind of stuff today. I'm excited. I've got my cape on, and excited to be back with you. Association Transformation. Here we go.
Excellent. Can I just big shout out to all our listeners in Belgium, because apparently we're like number 43 in the all-time charts this week in Belgium, which
Number 43.
I just think that's fantastic. Well, welcome to everybody in Brussels and beyond. That's all I can say. I'm so pleased about it. So yeah, we're saving the world. Well, maybe one association at a time. So I am delighted this week. I mean, regular listeners will know that we do spend a lot of our time talking about the way in which associations, membership organisations can contribute to sustainable development, social responsibility, tackle these unprecedented global challenges that we're facing beyond the unprecedented challenge of pandemic. We have at the very forefront of our minds climate change and ways in which this industry, this sector internationally can combine to address the challenges of climate change. And I am so excited that we've got Alison Heppenstall, who's the Director of Climate Action for us. I'm going to read. Do you know what? I didn't do it properly. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to do it better. We've got Alison Heppenstall, who's the Director of Climate Action for Associations, joining us today. Hello, Ali.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you? Where are you dialing in from, just so that we know?
Well, I'm dialing in direct from Western Australia, Perth in Western Australia, actually Fremantle, Perth, Western Australia. I've been stuck here since March 2020. I was one of those that left the UK for 2 weeks and then got caught in the midst of the lockdown. And during the summer, it was probably the best place to be. But obviously, with the opening up of the UK and the entry into winter now here, I'm starting to feel like the exemptions this end would lift and I might be able to climb on a plane soon. But I used to travel regularly from London to Australia for work, and I can safely say that our organisation's carbon footprint has gone down dramatically since I've not been able to do that. I'd say we're firmly nearly at net zero ourselves. So we're living the dream.
Excellent.
But thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time to talk.
No, I think it's such an important. Yours is such an important initiative, and this is such an important collaboration for the Institute of Association Leadership as well. And I'm delighted that you're here. Tell us a wee bit. Actually, do you know what? I've got a huge biography in front of me. I'm not going to read it out. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you come from, and where's your interest in or your expertise in climate action for associations. Where's it come from? What's it driven by?
Yeah, so obviously there's a personal and professional ambition with myself. So I've been working in the association sector for coming up to, it's probably about 21 years. And I set up a company called B2B 15 years ago now. And obviously, Andrew, B2B specializes in working with membership organizations to help them with their growth and sustainability activities. And it's through all of our work at B2B that about 5 or 6 years ago, we started working with our first climate NGO, which was called the Carbon Trust. And interestingly, the Carbon Trust, as part of our work for them, they asked us to complete what was called a small business sustainability toolkit. So all of their providers really need to be demonstrating climate commitment. So at the time, as a small business, we thought that this would be incredibly taxing, etc. But we went through their toolkit because obviously we were desperate to work with them as a client to support them. And we found that within a year, we'd gone completely paperless. We had saved a lot of money on travel and energy, and we were completely in the cloud because obviously we had to transform our business model. And within a year and a half, we didn't need our office anymore. And during that time, obviously working with the Carbon Trust, we also learned a great deal about the role of industry and business in the climate agenda, and the fact that the biggest emitters, to global warming are business and industry of different sectors, obviously. And it was from there really our interest really started. So we started working with a lot of other institutes and associations to help them with their own sustainability plans. And then a couple of years ago, we started to work with a big global NGO called the Climate Group. And we worked with them to help them restructure their membership, their business action membership, which is split into campaigns, the Renewable Energy 100, the electric vehicle 100, so the EV, EP, RE 100. They've got lots of different campaigns that massive organizations sign up to. And we help them restructure their membership proposition in that area. And then slightly later, we started working with they also are the secretariat for an organization called the Under 2 Coalition, which is a coalition of global states and regions around the world. And we work with them to help them reshape their membership offer to global states and regions. And I guess for us, it was fair to say, and I guess I'm speaking with my B2B hat just for a second, that we saw firsthand the role that organizations were playing in and actually, to be fair, not moving fast enough. So our view was these types of NGOs like the Climate Group, the Carbon Trust, and We Mean Business, etc. They're doing a fantastic, amazing job at encouraging and supporting businesses in their pathway to and roadmap to net zero. And we felt, with our experience with working with associations, why don't we try and support industries and professions as a whole, as opposed to individual organizations? So late last year, the idea, well, actually it was about September last year, September 2020, we ran an event with our client in New York. It wasn't in New York, obviously, everything was virtual, at New York Climate Week, and it was called Climate Action for Associations. And we had a great response, really strong engagement, and we started talking to our NGO friends around what would the appetite be to start a collective called Climate Action for Associations. So that was where the idea was born, really. So it was a blend of knowing that there was a gap there to support associations and membership organizations in the acceleration to net zero, to help them both internally to sort their own house out, but also to support the membership that they represent. And yes, we sort of went into mini lockdown over Christmas into sort of January, and in very late February, we launched the CAFA Climate Action for Associations. And the CAFA Collective is the collective power and influence, I guess, of associations in the movement to net zero and carbon neutrality. So we've got big ambitions, obviously. We want all associations to sign up to the CAFA Collective to drive net zero and accelerate their business, the professions, the businesses and industries they represent towards change. And we feel that this is a fantastic opportunity to talk to you, because obviously we feel like the the Institute of Association Leadership is key to this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. You've witnessed, as you say, firsthand when you've been working with organisations, the impact that the membership sector can realise, but also the arguably the snail's pace it's taken some entities to sort of engage with it. And you'll be aware, back in 2015, the UN Global Compact and the International Chamber of Commerce published a report, highlighting the contributions that business associations can make to, addressing climate change, climate action, and the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. And yet, here we are 6 years later, and I'm still to be convinced that, you using net zero language there. I'm still struggling to understand how associations are sort of understanding net zero. Never mind their role in promoting net zero. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Is it just that? I mean, I just feel that for such a long time now, associations are not necessarily recognising their role within civic society to advance climate action.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think it varies, doesn't it, from association to associations, because obviously you get some that are already steeped in an environmental mission or agenda. And then you get others who it's so far from their line of sight because particularly at the moment, they're so busy supporting their membership through Build Back Better and recovery and resilient post-COVID, that the climate agenda, as much as they recognise that it ought to be on their list of priorities, actually currently isn't. I think it genuinely, the conversations that we're having with our network and the CAFA collective membership is that it really does vary, and there's a very big difference between supporting members with their own progress as opposed to them actually tackling what they need to do internally themselves as typically small businesses. So yeah, it does vary, but we've also had some amazing conversations recently with associations who have been talking about this subject with their members for decades. So, but just perhaps not necessarily had the support that the momentum hasn't been there. The policies, the legislation, standards, well, global standards still don't exist, but perhaps the support around them, the world wasn't in the race that it's in at the moment. So the impetus wasn't there. Yeah.
Well, let's be fair. I think for years, decades even, we've told associations to be fairly focused in the development and execution of their mission. Who are your members? What is your niche? What is your relevance and service to a profession, an industry, a segment? And so telling them to take this on has probably seemed beyond their reach or outside of their jurisdiction. And now to adopt that responsible consciousness and even a hunger for tackling a topic like this. I mean, it's what we've been telling them not to do. We've been telling them to stay focused. And now, to your point, coming out of a pandemic with diversity and equity and inclusion, they're overwhelmed by that. And now net zero. I mean, I don't envy a modern day association executive. I don't. This is a lot, and I don't even know where they would begin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I think there's a whole cultural piece here, isn't it? It's not just about the perfunctory elements of, right, here's for example, I don't know, here's a tool, it's going to help you measure, understand, reduce your carbon, and contribute to net zero. I think it's a wider piece here about embedding the language of climate action in an association's everyday conversations, the same way we're doing with, as you say, equality and diversity and inclusivity. We seem to be getting less pushback on those areas, for example, those priority areas, than we are on the climate conversation. I still feel people are saying this is beyond my jurisdiction. We've got the trade associations that are, or the membership bodies that are responsible for, oh, I don't know, energy management or transport or waste, procurement. Let them deal with it, and we'll just carry on. So, I mean, what tools are available? How do I, as I'm an association chief exec, I'm thinking, right, okay, I get it. I've convinced my board they get it. What tools are available to me, though, to begin to sort of change that culture within my association?
Yeah, I think, well, so it's the conversation that we're having is a really good one because you were talking just a little bit about, D&I, and that's now become business as usual, and it's integrated in to operating models as well as mindset and culture and values, etc. Our view, and it's the view of many others, that the climate and your environmental response will and needs to take the same level of sort of integratedness,
Yeah.
if that's a word,
Mm-hmm.
into business
It is
models
now.
moving forward. So yeah, so it is part. Yeah, thanks. It is part and parcel of business modeling going forward. So even as pressure increases around reporting emissions, so obviously, you were talking about tools. Obviously, there are tools that already exist to set your. I'm talking about membership organisations internally right now. Obviously, to set
Yeah.
their
Mm-hmm.
baseline. So, what is your current baseline? What is the current carbon emission of your organisation, and then obviously set your target for climate change and move towards that and report on that, and obviously demonstrate climate leadership and the progress you're making. There are obviously lots of tools around to support that, including the tools that sit on the Climate Action for Associations platform and site that are involved, but there are other tools obviously on other hubs and other support areas that are easily accessible. I feel like the thing, and obviously it's a massive objective for us to try and support the development of, but the idea of integration into a membership organization's social purpose. Elisa, you mentioned social impact, and a lot, as you know, many membership organizations have public good as a part of their articles and constitution, and the reason for being, and not all of them measure their social impact or their public impact either. We feel that climate and addressing the climate and the environmental needs and integrating an approach to doing that. So it's almost like a total sustainability approach and a total integrated mindset, and how that impacts culture, values, member services, purpose, etc., is absolutely critical, and it's where membership organisations need to be heading. In the same way that consumers are driving retailers to change, we definitely see a world not too far from now where members of membership organisations will be demanding more from the association that they're part of. So that is about staying relevant. It does become part of business as usual. It is about being resilient and sustainable. Um, and let's not forget the opportunities associated with carbon neutrality and reducing emissions as well. There's a lot to offer around this to help organisations grow and change as well.
So, as an executive looking to bring this conversation to the table, do you need to wait for the right president, the right chairperson to initiate this? Do you, as a staff person, do you wait until you know you have the support for it, or do you need to just start chipping away and bringing it up often? Again, I'm trying to put myself in a staff mindset here, how to be successful, how to be measured based on your successes and the achievements of the organization. I mean, how are you starting this conversation? How are you preparing to be measured for it? And how do you push it through in a
Yeah.
way that succeeds?
Yeah, well, the UNFCCC, secretary has basically said business as usual is no longer an option. We are in a state of climate emergency. So there's no don't have time, can't be bothered, don't know what it means for me. That just no longer exists. And the view is that if companies don't take an immediate step to align their work and their business model and their product and services and their engagement with staff, employees, members, whoever it might be, there is a disalignment there, and there's a very strong chance that their businesses will become redundant and unrelevant. And so there's a whole range of reasons why boards, councils, senior management, as well as employees, need to be moving swiftly. We are in a state of emergency. So I don't think I don't think the conversation is if or even when anymore. The when is now, but it's more about the how. Now, how are we? How fast should we? What do we need? How do we genuinely, without over engineering and over complicating everything, how do we get on board with this? How do we start to make the cuts we need to make?
So within that context, I mean, I'm we've spoken about the way associations, which, as you say, are the most are operating in a small business context directly on in terms of their own operations. Although, of course, there are some with large estates. There are some, with whose reduction in their impacts could be significant quite quickly. I'm thinking in particular something like the Royal Colleges, which have large estates and global memberships, that require attendance at global conferences. This whole load of quick wins there that within an organisation, within the operations of an association or membership body, you can realise success. But obviously, as you know, the core purpose of the association is to support the collective and the membership. So beyond an association being a member of the CAFA collective and benefiting itself, what's available? Is there something available that they can then take from from CAFA and push it out across their membership to make, well, basically, as a membership opportunity, as a member benefit, you've got, as a member of, I don't know, whatever association, you've got access to these tools and resources. Is that something that's available? Is it something that CAFA is developing? I'm just trying to put the pieces together so that obviously
Right, what's the first step?
We're not just talking about operations, we're talking about core purpose, and the core purpose is supporting the members. So, yeah, what comes next?
Yeah, so as part of, obviously there's a range of tools available, but as part of Climate Action for Associations, we've defined a roadmap, which is a starter pack, I guess, that helps membership organizations take action. That includes a range of guidance, information, and learning around some quick wins, as well as policies to implement internally, to templates to support the communication with how to report to board, how to have that key stakeholder conversation, which is number one in the action plan that's been developed, is obviously around business partnering and stakeholder engagement, because it's not just you give one person in your organization the job to go away and sort this out. It's a total integrated, it's not just a piece of work either. I was about to say it's a piece of work. It's not a piece of work or an initiative or a program. It's about embedding fully embedding. So we've created some quick wins. We've obviously got an action plan. We've got a carbon calculator, which goes up to scope 3. We've got tools. We help organizations convene and speak to one another. I think the key thing here is there's no magic bullet, and there's definitely no one easy way either. I think a lot of the jargon used out there is quite overwhelming, and it is very perhaps over-engineered. What we've tried to do is take what we know, and you would appreciate this, is what the key things that membership organizations do and need to do and need to continue to do regardless of the climate emergency, and try to create some really simple tools to help address the address and actually take practical action as well. I think the interesting thing in terms of, Eliza, you asked, who do we speak to, who does what? I mean, fundamentally, if senior management team and boards and council aren't aware, or if this isn't cropping up on their agenda yet, and they've not started to think about this, then something's wrong there. And it could be that there is a push-pull. There's probably a top-down and a bottom-up movement going on in membership organizations at the moment. Some really large membership organizations that we work with are starting to think, okay, so what is the impact that our membership or our profession has on the environment? And let's face it, not many organizations who aren't, the Energy Institute or the Green Building Council, or that many organizations haven't actually thought about that to date. So a good step for membership organizations to take in terms of supporting the members they represent with their own move towards carbon neutrality is to really get under the skin of what the current impact of that industry or profession is at the moment. And the only way to do that is really through research, like researching the membership, asking them some pretty basic member engagement activities, to be honest, on a really critical subject.
I'm so glad you said that, because this does have to stem from the members' hunger and perspective and concern and interest in this area, staff driven or otherwise. The stomach for this has to live within the membership in order for the executive to have the push and the backing necessary. You mentioned a push pull. I think it's exactly that. And an important first step for those not sure where they fall in on the spectrum of readiness for this. Maybe that, your Ignite Masterclass, we're just a few days away, May 26th. Do you like how I did that, Andrew? Yeah.
That segue was amazing. My
God. But no, seriously, we're really excited to have you as a speaker for the Ignite Masterclass. And as you mentioned, I think the Climate Action for Associations is an important partner with the Institute for Association Leadership, and I'm excited to see that marriage and bring people to that conversation. Because whereas we can kind of tee things up here and we can play some devil's advocate and help push this forward, I think that masterclass really is where we get nitty gritty and where we talk about the tools and those starter templates and how to help people get into this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to, so I've just had a mental blank. I was going to say,
it's all right. That happens to Andrew all the time. It's okay. It's okay.
You just sparked a really good thought, and it's gone. No, sorry, I can't remember what it was. It was a prompt. Yeah, it was an urgency around the push. Oh no, I remember what I was going to say, and it's definitely I can't believe why I forgot this. A member of the CAFA collective. It's just you wouldn't I guess, perceive this institute to be as on it as they are, but I'm going to name them if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
The Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals, SIP, based out of the UK.
Yeah.
They're taking this agenda extremely seriously, and they allocated somebody internally to first of all set out their ambition, to then engage with board and council and senior management team, and they've stuck their neck out and created a verbal ambition to the membership and internally as well, to be the most carbon efficient payroll institute in the world, or something along those lines. And they are setting their targets, they're taking action. What does payroll have to do with the climate? They could have shirked it off and said, actually, we're probably about two or three points of separation from individuals who absolutely not. They found their role. They found their point of relevance. They know exactly why they're on this ambition, why they're on this journey, why the ambition that they've set is really plausible and powerful, and they're now taking really strong steps towards that. And it's a really good example of they could have probably slipped another 6 months without actually doing anything about it, because where is that direct relevance?
Yeah.
But they're taking it extremely seriously,
It's and it's
and we're seeing a lot of other institutes follow suit.
yeah. I was going to say it's interesting, because yeah, where one begins to then look for your own information is curious now, because I'm going to call someone else out. I'm going to name check for the Institute of Chartered Accountants for England and Wales. I actually spend a lot of my time when I'm looking for climate related material. I actually spend a lot of time looking at the ICAEW, because they're doing some fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Again, not a kind of
Amazing
typical. You wouldn't think, oh, God, looked at the accountants; they'll be able to help me. But actually, spot on the stuff they develop. It's fantastic. So yeah, I think it's interesting, the sort of the variety of, in terms of the sources of knowledge and expertise now, as well. If we realize our collective ambitions, then the resources will be fantastic and so broad. It'll just be amazing.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The ICAW's Climate Hub is a great point of reference. They've got some amazing information on there. I think the fantastic thing about them, and obviously the really good work that the other accounting bodies are doing, like ACCA example, is that they know that there are vast numbers of their members who are practitioners. So not only are accountants in business, but they're also practicing accountants helping other organizations. And it's those practicing accountants that have a first-hand role in sustainable reporting and supporting organizations, and the number crunching in relation to carbon setting and carbon measurement and monitoring and reporting, is definitely has a finance reporting aspect to it. So the role of the accountant in climate action is critical, absolutely critical, and it's becoming more and more integrated.
This is a
Who
whole
would have thought?
that's a whole other podcast. The role of the accountant in climate change. I love it.
And interestingly, because we work very closely with the CIPD as well, and the role of HR and people and behaviour is obviously critical. So coming back to payroll professionals, there will be a link between. It's not so obvious at the moment, but there is a link between ESG and pay and reward strategies in organizations, and creating incentives and employee engagement and benefits and reward. There is a big, just like EDI and pay reporting, etc. It's becoming more and more critical and again important.
Well, I'm so glad we mentioned
really
some organizations there. There are so many organizations doing so well in this and who have already taken those first steps. And I think it demonstrates not only the opportunity to collaborate, but the intersectionality of all of this, and how the layers and actors and will come together to make progress in this area. And Ali, you are an important part of this. Thank you so much for spearheading this conversation, not only with us, but with the Institute for Association Leadership. I'm excited about the May 26th masterclass. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern, and I encourage everyone to visit theial.org for more information and to register. So thanks again for joining us, Ali. We appreciate it. I know that our international conversations require people from all different time zones. So thanks for joining us. We can put a pin on the map for Perth, and thank you for your time today. We greatly appreciate it and wish you the best with the climate action for associations and all your efforts in that space. So thank you. And Andrew, thank you.
It's been a privilege to talk to you.
Andrew, thanks for coming back online and jumping back on the Association Transformation horse. We're glad to have you back.
It's always a pleasure.
Oh, and thank you to all of our Association Transformation listeners, especially those in Belgium, where we're going for.
Yes,
we're gonna shoot for top 40. Let's see if we can break the 40s.
We're gonna go for the entire Benelux nations. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break the top 40 in all of them.
Oh my goodness. Wherever you are listening from, you can now find Association Transformations wherever you get your podcasts. So we encourage you to make us one of your favorites. And if you have a topic or a speaker you'd like us to look into, or if you'd like to join us yourself and you are in the association space with something to talk about, you can reach us at hello@yourconsort.com or tweet us at Association Transformation. And until next time, we encourage you to put your mission and your members and the climate and the world first. Thanks, everybody.
Association Transformation is brought to you in partnership between Consort Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions in support of the Institute of Association Leadership.